I wanted to spoof what the interview is. I wanted to spoof what a date is.
What's your type?
Dark hair.
Why did you think it was funny? Why did you think it would work? Who gave you access?
Thank you to KSI, Jennifer Lawrence, Ed Sheeran.
When did you know you could make money from this show?
I wasn't making any money from the views for honestly years. It was a nightmare situation.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You can make it, you can star in it, and then you can publish
It's
it.
changing the media landscape.
I'm witnessing something that...
We're witnessing history.
History, yes. We first met Amelia Dimoldenberg after we made a video about her on this channel. And the reason we made that video is because we were so impressed with the fact that she was able to create a celebrity talk show entirely independently. No funding from any media company, just uploading YouTube videos for almost 10 years. Her interview show, Chicken Shop Date, has over 340 million views on her channel. But even more impressive is its cultural impact. A moment from her episode with Theroux resulted in a dance trend that defined 2022. And it's become one of the premier destinations for actors and musicians to promote their upcoming work. We talked to her in this episode about how she's built one of YouTube's biggest shows, how she books top-tier talent, and how she's crafted a brand that transcends YouTube. Hi, Amelia.
Hi.
Hello.
Great to see you again.
Yes, we're catching you at this really cool moment here in London, coming right off the Barbie premiere, which you were on the pink carpet for.
Yes.
And also coming off of the Jennifer Lawrence Chicken Shop Date
Yes.
episode, which those both feel like very big moments. Does
sure.
it feel like that for you right now in your career?
I actually feel like it does feel quite like a big moment. And I think especially the Barbie premiere.
Yeah.
If I could have seen my younger self, at school or at university with dreams of being, a presenter or a journalist, knowing that I would be one of the hosts of the Barbie premiere, I would have been like, wow, that is a dream gig. And with red carpet interviews, it's so much is out of your control. So you really don't know how the interviews are going to pan out. You don't even know who you're going to get to speak to. So that's always a risk when you do those jobs. So when it does pay off and you get, the moment, a moment that's shared, or like the Ryan Gosling.
Well, the Gosling.
clip.
I texted you.
Yeah, you did.
I'm actually on the lookout for a Ken myself.
Oh.
Do you have any tips on how to find a Ken?
Drop something. If a Ken picks it up,
Ooh.
you can,
Oh, God.
That moment was shared by my friends to
really?
me.
Oh, really?
And I had heard that you were doing the premiere, but I hadn't seen any clips yet.
Oh.
And immediately that was shared. And it was something that we were talking about, that although you built your career on the internet, you are in a very unique position where it feels like you've built this brand that's transcended the internet. Like my friends who don't watch online content, they don't watch YouTube, they know who you are.
Right.
And that is a very
Great.
unique, but that's a very unique thing to do for someone who's built their career off of a YouTube show.
And if anyone would notice it, it would be us. Because we are interviewing, obviously, these very
Yeah.
digital people. And the amount of times that...
Well, they're real people.
Well, they are
Yeah.
real people, but they have these huge digital lives. And the amount of times it's like, Mom, we interviewed Mr. Beast. And she's like, huh?
Who's that?
What?
Isn't that crazy? Because he's the
crazy.
biggest creator. Is he
Yeah.
the biggest creator? Yeah, and I only knew about him through your channel, like watching.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
watching your. So I find out about so many creators through your channel because they don't come up on my algorithm, and I don't see them. And then I go on there, I find them through you, and then I go on their page, and I'm like, what? They've got X million subscribers, and it's interesting how the internet works in that way, that you can have millions and millions of followers on TikTok or on YouTube, and so many people in the public will not know who you are because you are hitting a very specific demographic that's also incredibly global, I think, too. So you're a very widespread audience. So those millions of followers will be from all across the world. So it wouldn't be necessarily sometimes communities of people that will know you. But that's been within my strategy, or my ambitions is always to be straddling both the online and the traditional. And I just feel if you really sort of want to be, I don't know, top of your game, you have to have a foot in both worlds.
I feel like for you, the world became somewhat aware of you because of the Jack Harlow episode.
Yes, for sure.
Can you read?
What the hell is this?
Do you like to read?
That was a moment in time. That was explosion of the Amelia Dimoldenberg.
Explosion of chemistry.
Yeah, exactly. But when we looked into you at that time, right? And we had heard our office, it's like a bunch of people who watch a lot of YouTube. So your show had come up before the Jack Harlow interview.
Right.
But that was the moment where it kind of, became very popular. And it kind of feels like you've arrived in the past 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
But this is a decade-long story.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It started, I don't know, when I was 17. I'm 29 now. So I'm just trying to do the maths. God, I'm so bad at maths.
I mean, no one can. Yeah,
no one
yeah,
can
it's okay.
do that maths.
That math. Yeah.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started with the idea when I was 17 years old at a youth club in Northwest London, where I'm from. I started going there after school on every Wednesday, and we made a magazine, and that's what we did. And everyone there was really into UK rap and grime, and so that was kind of like my introduction into that music specifically. And so it was very natural when it came to be that. The question of who would I like to interview, it just seemed like, oh, of course I'm going to interview these rappers that everyone's talking about. And then, yeah, I started the column in that magazine, and I did it for about 2 years.
And in the column, you were also playing or taking part in essentially dates. Like what the format has become today, there were a lot of elements to it that were also in the written column.
Yeah, definitely. And it was very much like question, one-line answer. My question, one-line answer. It was, but within the question, I'd like put some kind of sarky comment, or I wanted it to feel very like staccato energy with it. And the questions that we came up with were asking it in a different angle, like spinning something on its head.
What led you to doing this? Like, who were you before that? Like, were you someone?
I don't even remember who I was before. I honestly feel like I'm like
Amelia
chicken
before.
shop girl forever. Like, I can't imagine my life before that. What led me to doing this? At school, I was always like an overachiever in terms of always being involved in like every single extracurricular activity. Like I always was trying to like do the most at school, because I was always very average in terms of my grades, and I didn't really love the subjects that we had at school. So like the English, maths, the classic ones. I was always very much more interested in the extracurricular things that were more creative, that also maybe lended themselves to something that you would actually serve a purpose in an actual job. Or I think I realized very early on at school that like being funny sells, and
totally.
that you can get an audience and that you can capture people's attention by making them laugh. And that's something that I think has been a constant throughout my life. And I feel, I think that's what you can see through my work, really.
Let's talk about some of the initial inspirations for creating the format. Because even as a written column, like creating Chicken Shop Date, like that, there is a lot of different things that go into that idea, right? So how did that, like, where did that idea come from even as the column? Like, why did you think it was funny? Why did you think it would work?
I think the initial idea came about through doing an interview as a date. So that was the first thought. I thought that would be an interesting way to angle an interview, and also I really wanted to go on a date, and I'd never been on a date, so I was 2 birds with one stone. And then someone said you should never go. Someone said you should go on a date where you would never usually go on a date to make it funny, and that's how the chicken shop element happened. And then I guess the style of like my vibe was when I was at school, I was very dry, like more than I am now, like very sarcastic and dry humor, deadpan. To me, that was much more entertaining than me just being me.
Did you have visual references of that? Of like, like the first time I watched your show, I remember thinking there was an element of Between Two Ferns.
Yeah, definitely. That was a big
Zach
inspiration
Galifianakis.
too. Love Between Two Ferns. I just love how it's like an anti-interview. I've always also been quite inspired by like things that have gone wrong. So interviews that have gone wrong, or interviews that are really awkward and the interaction hasn't gone to plan how we see interviews going. And that to me is very inspiring because that's funny to me. That's what I think I wanted to do. I wanted to spoof what the interview is. I wanted to spoof what a date is. I also have always watched a lot of mockumentaries, And I think things...
I love mockumentaries.
Yeah, from Spinal Tap to Best in Show.
Yes.
Those, the awkwardness of those, I think I found very inspiring to the kind of comedy that
Yes.
I do. And in a way, it kind of feels a bit mockumentary-esque. Maybe the tone of my show. And then in terms of the character, like the biggest reference I see in my character is Leslie Knope from Parks and Recreation.
Rec.
In terms of her enthusiasm and desperation, both at the same time, in a cross section. And I think that that's what I do with my character in a way. I always say that I'm equal parts uninterested as I am desperate. And I think that the juxtaposition of both those two opposing things create for a really funny comedy character. Because sometimes, I'm really interested and I'm overly keen in the guest, and I'm saying things like, when are we getting married? And then in the same breath, they will come and say something flirty to me, and I'll be like, can you back off? And I think it's that going between the two that I find can throw the audience off, and both the audience and the guest.
I think we talked about this in the video we made about you, but even in Drake, receiving a DM from Drake, I believe the response was like, I'll check my schedule.
Yeah.
Which still plays into that of like, I'm looking for a date. Here comes one of the biggest stars of all time. And yet the character and the tone is there.
Well, that's what you have to do. Like, it would be so boring to be like keen on Drake, right? It would be,
Totally.
as in, you have to sort of play it like that, I think, because that's the funny thing to do, is to seem that like you're not interested in him. But yeah.
Wow, it's so interesting. Just to go back on some of the points in the conversation, like I was also, I was a below average student in school, but excelled in video editing and film production, and was also part of the school newspaper and wrote like funny columns in there. I also am incredibly inspired by mockumentary, and my senior film project, I went to film school, was a mockumentary.
Oh, really?
Which was the first time that I was really on camera. I played a role in that, very inspired by The Office. It was like The Office mixed with Spinal Tap. Yeah, it was like those were my two references. But I was curious about your relationship with being a performer and being on camera, because writing a column is very different from saying, hey, let's turn a camera on and let's turn this into a video show. Why go there? Like, why do that?
I think because when I was doing the interviews, when they were written, I just had my dictaphone. I realised that what was going on was funny. That I just thought this would be great if it was filmed, if people could see this play out. And so I don't know. I've always been someone very comfortable at being out of my comfort zone, and I feel like that's the only way you move forward. So I often feel incredibly nervous, incredibly anxious at times, that I'm often doing things for the first time. But it's also how I feel comfortable being in those situations. So to me, the idea of making the leap to do video was just something that I had to do. But the issue was I didn't know anything about video production. And I remember like sitting in a Chinese restaurant actually before filming, going over my questions, being so incredibly nervous. God, are they gonna turn up? But obviously I'd done the written column before, so I knew how it played out, but it was just obviously a different experience. And Ghetts was actually early. So I was like, oh, okay. And then we get there and we film. And yeah, and then I didn't talk to him before Ghetts. He just arrived, and back in the day I used to be very like method with it. I would like not talk to anyone at all, and I would like barely talk to them afterwards. I'd be like, thanks, bye. I think it's also because I was not that confident like as well. And now I do like a proper like briefing with them and stuff before.
Did you feel like it went well right after that first episode?
Yeah, I thought it went really well. Yeah, and also because I did have the proof of concept with the written column, like I knew what it's like when I know what it feels like when you're getting a good interview, and I still find that now. It's one of my favorite things of my job. One of my favorite parts of the job is when you're interviewing someone and you can really tell that it's going well. Because when I'm in the interview, I've got my editor hat on, I've got my like everything hat on, and I can feel the moments where I know this is going to really work well, and I will know for sure when I've wrapped with an interview if it's going to be good or not.
Is this going well?
This is going really well.
Okay, good. Oh, man,
also, I'm not the one who should be answering.
That's
your question. That's a you question.
So what was the response like after the Ghetts episode came out? And did that dictate like your energy to make another one?
Yeah, definitely. It was just exactly the energy that we wanted. It was that quick cuts, funny, like laugh out loud moments. And yeah, I mean, in terms of the reception, it got, I don't know, like 1,000 views or something, like not that many views at all. And I spent a lot of time trying to pitch it to different blogs. Can you reshare this? This was before content was what it is now. Like this was nearly 10 years ago. So there wasn't an appetite for content in the way it is now. Like I always think when you have a new show now, you can go viral immediately because of the way the algorithms work, the way that TikTok works, Shorts, YouTube, Twitter, sharing your content. Whereas for me, it was very much like years. It's taken years to get an audience, to build an audience. Whereas now you can almost get that overnight.
So in terms of the evolution of those early episodes, for me, there's this moment. It's like right around the AJ Tracey episode where you have a new intro.
Oh my God, I was going to talk about
that's
this.
Like incredibly intricate and it's got a sound to it. And the actual sound of your episodes gets better.
Yes.
Right? Like from the first one, you're like, oh they're clearly in a chicken shop
God.
and maybe there's no mic.
There isn't.
And then 3 or 4 episodes later, it's beautiful intro, which you still have today, intro and outro.
Yeah.
And you have audio.
Yeah.
What was the evolution of the show like in those first 3 to 4? And like, did your thinking change to even get to the point where you wanted a new intro?
Well, yeah, the video production element of what I do has always been the most challenging part because I was a complete novice and everything I've learned has been through learning on the job. No one has ever taught me anything. I was never part of a bigger organization or anything like that. So everything I've learned just through doing it. And yeah, the first episodes we didn't have a separate sound recordist, we just had clip-on mics. One of them didn't even work. So I don't know if you noticed, but in the Ghetts episode I think that all the sound from me is being picked up on Ghetts mic. That's anxiety inducing now. Yeah, so was doing that for 4 episodes. And then the AJ Tracey episode was a turning point for sure because it was a real moment to get him on the show because he was a very exciting up-and-coming rapper in London, and he was at the time had not many followers at all. I actually cancelled on him twice.
You cancelled on him?
I cancelled on AJ Tracey, yeah, because I couldn't find a shop in his area. I really wanted to do it local to him in West London, and I couldn't find any shops that would let me film. Back then, I would be the one who would be finding the shops, and that was one of the hardest things as well, was to find a shop that would let me film. I also didn't realize that you had to like pay to shut them. So for the first episodes, we haven't paid to shut the shop. The shop is open. And so we would have to stop recording when customers,
in. Oh my God, that's amazing.
It was just, I just didn't understand it. And also I didn't have any money to shut the shop. And then I ended up like using some of my savings, like £100 to, which at the time was obviously so much money when you're just a student, to shut the shop completely, the one for AJ Tracey in West London. And so then I messaged him and I was like, I finally found a shop. It was tiny, like we couldn't really fit any of the crew in. And we made it work. And then once we filmed that, I waited months and months, sat on it for months because I was trying to get this intro and outro made. My friend who I used to work with at American Apparel, Naomi, she is an incredible artist and she works with felt, and she made the stop motion animation for me. I gave her a brief and she made it, and it was amazing. And then me and Marvin were on copyright free music for ages on YouTube looking for a sound, and then we found the which I now own the rights to.
Whoa, really?
Yeah,
You own the rights to that?
I emailed him and I said, can I have the rights? And he said, yeah. And I have a contract and everything, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know, is it? Yeah, it's cool. And so, yeah, and then we added the intro and outro. And I guess the intro and outro was, I don't know why I wanted one. Because if I go on my analytics, it's the thing that people skip past the most. So really, I shouldn't have it in. But I like it.
But it's about valuing brand over necessarily views.
Yeah, which I always have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the aesthetic of it I love because I feel like it's cute and homemade, and it's not too slick like Chicken Shop. And I'm really lucky that I met Naomi, and her style really was something I was drawn to. And that's the kind of aesthetics that I like anyway. Like in my house, like I've got a lot of Naomi's work in my house, and it's very colourful and a bit kitsch, and that's maybe my what I like, my taste.
I'm curious at what point the show proved to you that it could be something commercial. Because as I'm looking through the episodes, it feels like when you go to the Wireless Festival, I think they sponsored some of them, right?
I was going to talk about that too, yeah.
Like, I'm just curious, when did you know you could make money from this show? Was it YouTube AdSense or was it like sponsorships?
For the first years, I never had AdSense on my videos. I didn't know how to do it. So for like the first, honestly years, I wasn't making any money from the views. So I made money through my job as in retail, and then that's how I made my money that I would then put into it. And then obviously the budgets were really low because I was getting everyone to do it as a favor. And then in terms of the commercial aspect of it, the Wireless episode was a big deal because I had the idea for ages. It'd be so cool to do my interviews backstage at a festival. And so that was the first time I did a project like outside of the chicken shop, basically. And it was a real learning experience.
Was there tension at all of, this is a job now that I have to do because I've agreed to something with Wireless? Because was that the first time that you were essentially paid, or did they just kind of give you access?
I don't think.
Okay,
I
so
was
it's not.
paid.
It doesn't feel. So at that point, it's not like a job. It's just like this is still.
This is just they're giving me the access.
They're giving me the access.
They're giving me the access, and also working closely with Wireless, the festival, and them helping me get the access to, and them being on board with it.
Access is something though that I think is one of the most valuable things to get as a young creator, especially when you're in, I guess, the thing that we do, which is we are looking for talent to do our thing with, right? You're looking to collaborate with people. So getting access is like social proof immediately that another artist can be like, okay, cool, they did it.
Totally.
So, right? And that social proof then creates momentum for guest-based shows or collaboration-based content. And I think those access moments are so pivotal in a creator's journey of who gave you access first. So I think that's really cool that, you know, that moment happened.
For sure. And that's something I've always been thinking about, like throughout the beginning of the show, is like talent has always been at the most important
right.
kind of conversation always. Who is the talent? Because I don't make episodes like weekly. You know, I'm back in when I first started, I was making an episode like once every 4 months for numerous reasons, because I couldn't get access to talent, because I didn't have the money to make the episodes, because I didn't have time within my studies at university, all of these different things. And another thing was, it was also on purpose because I didn't want to have too many episodes. I like that it's a very simple idea, and I've always thought that if I was doing them weekly, then people would get bored of them, and I'd also maybe get bored of making them. I like the idea that you don't know when a new episode's going to come out, and that I don't have a release schedule. And I think that's something you both talk about a lot with other creators on your channel, is the pressure of having to deliver YouTube content or content in general, setting yourself a goal or a schedule, and then being very overwhelmed by actually having to deliver. And so I've been very lucky in that sense that I've never had that pressure on me, but I have also felt a pressure to always do another episode, for sure. I remember like early on when no one was watching them, being like, I need to put another episode out because no one's gonna know who I am. It's like no one knew who you are anyway. But I like that I don't have to do a weekly episode. But yeah, talent is key. And back to your previous point, I've always been thinking, okay, if I get this talent, will it then open a door to this talent?
Of course.
And I still think about that now. And I sometimes have my theories of this person's going to see this episode and they're going to think, oh, that's my peer, I really rate what they do, I'm going to now do it. I think hopefully actors will see the Jennifer Lawrence episode and think, okay, another actor's done it, I could do it too. It's not just for musicians. And I was so happy when I got Daniel Kaluuya. That was a big moment for the show, because it was, as an Oscar-winning actor, and also someone that just was so perfect for the show, growing up in London and like a fan of a lot of the artists I'd had on previously. It was kind of he was the perfect guest, but he also was different enough for, I think, people to look at the show and think, oh wow, this could be bigger than we thought it could be, or it could be something different, or I have different ambitions for it.
That episode too is funny from the immediate click. The opening line of "I'm a big fan," and then you pause.
I'm a really big fan
Yeah. Thank you.
of chicken nuggets.
Of
Chicken nuggets. And he just completely breaks.
Yeah.
And I think for any actor who probably was curious if they wanted to come on the show and they watched that episode, you get them within the first like 10 seconds, which I also think is really important, that you like came out of the gates really strong with a new episode.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's something that you spoke about in the video you did about Chicken Shop Date, about the intention of starting with a moment, like a hook moment, before you go into the credits. Like you immediately understand the vibe in the first 10 seconds.
And you're in the middle, not in the beginning, which I think is really important. You start just in it. You're not, oh, hey, this is Daniel. You know, it's like you're in the middle of it.
And I always want to try and choose a moment that's kind of reflective of the episode as a whole, that sets up the tone and the vibe of who the guest is and their personality and what you're going to see in this episode. And I often am moving the opening bits. I'm changing the opening bits all the time.
So how do you go about booking guests? And how has that changed, you know, in 2023 from the past 10 years?
Well, originally, as I said, Ghetts came through the magazine and through a publicist that was a fan of the column, and that just that's how it happened. How else? I get through record labels reaching out. I was reaching out to record labels, publicists, managers, music managers of the artist, me meeting talent in the wild, me DMing guests. I was at a pub on the weekend, and literally just this weekend gone by in Farringdon, and I'm turn around with my pint, and then I look, and there's a girl stood up, standing, looking at me, and I was like, oh, I'm about to get recognised, and I was gonna do the thing, and I look at her, and she goes, hello, and I go, Lord, and it was Lord.
Oh wow!
And she was like, I just wanted to say I'm such a big fan, and I was like, are you Lord? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, that's so random. And then we got chatting, and then, you know, I don't know. So that could start something, a conversation, but that was really random. But sometimes things like that happen. I meet people in different situations. That was kind of crazy though. She was really nice. But yeah, how has it differed? I don't know. It's just always been a struggle to get talent to come on the show. Like it's never not been challenging. Like there's still lots of people that I want to get on that I haven't been able to now. And it takes years of negotiating and talking, and I don't know, it just happens through all different ways, but it's always a challenge.
I'm curious, is there a guest or two that you see as like a big inflection point for taking you from, you know, grime to bigger musicians, but then opening you up to the world of like actors in a major way?
I guess, as you said, the Jack Harlow episode was a big one.
How did that come about?
Through the label.
The
label reached out to either me or my producer. I think it was me actually directly, because my involvement has changed in the show, like what I do in terms of like when it started, I was very much, I produced it all. I was I didn't even know that was a job title, but I would guess I was the producer. I was finding the shop, I was doing the post-production, I was doing everything. And then it also made me very stressed. I didn't enjoy that part of it, really. There's so much pressure on as the producer to make sure everything happens. When people ask me, oh, do you ever get nervous before you do the interviews? I'm like, yeah, about the production. I'm not thinking about me and my delivery. I'm like thinking about, oh, is the camera operator going to turn up? Does he have the right memory cards? Like, is the shop owner going to be there when we want to open? All this stuff, like, is the edit going to go the way I want it to be? And then one of the best things I've done is offload the production to other people, and that honestly has just been the biggest weight off my shoulders, to then not have to deal with that and just to concentrate on doing my questions and being the performer in the episode and dealing with the talent. Like, I'm happy to like broker the first conversation with when we're trying to book talent. So if I DM someone and I say, hey, can I have your manager's email? They'll give me the manager's email, I'll send it to my producer, do that. But like, I don't want to be involved in the production.
Yeah, you need to work on the craft of being Amelia.
That was a big learning though, because I think for a long time I was doing everything, and it was too much, and I needed to separate the roles out. And also finding a producer that you like and finding team members, and well, mainly the producer that you like is really challenging. It can be very challenging, and finding someone that really understands how you like to work and your tone of voice. And I've been very fortunate that over the years I've worked with really brilliant producers, and I think I've learned the most from them. Like in terms of my career, I've learned the most from the different producers that have been in and out of my journey.
Could you tell us how the process works now? Like if we were in a hypothetical situation, we're going to be on the show. We've just agreed. We've just said, yes, let's do it.
Okay. Then you would be talking to my producer, Liv, and she would then find dates that you're available, and then we would cross-check that I'm available.
Next week.
We're available
next week.
Then Liv would reach out to our regular crew. We always use the same crew: 2 camera operators, sound operator, production assistant, photographer. She would reach out to them, pencil them in for the date. Then we'd find the shop local to where you live or where your hotel is. And then that's kind of it, really. It's kind of a small production.
Do those people work for your production company?
Liv does. So I employ 2 people: Liv, my producer, and Ashley, my social media manager. And then everyone else is freelance.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And then what's your process? Like from a brainstorming questions or angles, or like the comedic side of it, what's your process?
So originally me and Marvin used to write all the questions together. And we would sometimes we would meet up for dinner and write them over dinner at Nando's, or we would just send them back and forth to each other. And then now I work with another writer called Anya Magliano, and I also work with Hazzy and Miracle, who were social media assistants. And then some episodes I'll just write them on my own. Sometimes I write with my sister, who's actually a big part of my journey as well. I haven't actually spoken about her yet, but she's kind of integral as well to the team. And yeah, so I'll write with different people.
How aware are you of potentially viral moments, or are you completely unaware? Is it like I need to be so present that I can create comedic moments, or I know this could become a funny clip?
No, I never really approach things being like, I think this could be viral. I think that's actually the nature of something going viral, is that it's unpredictable and you can't predict it happening. So I think going into something being like, I want to create a viral moment, will never happen. I had no idea, the Jack Harlow, to worry, not to worry, which people love. I didn't know who was going to say that. And I didn't know that the Ryan Gosling thing that went over the last few days of me dropping my cue card, I just thought of that in the moment, and he's so funny that it worked.
So when you sit down with an artist like a Jack Harlow, whoever it is it a constant back and forth, or are there lulls? What is that hour or 2 hours or however long it is?
God, it'd never be 2 hours.
Yeah, so how
Imagine
long
doing an interview for more than an hour.
I could never. I could never imagine.
So we film for 40 minutes, but we have the talent for an hour. So they arrive, and I say, hello, thank you so much for being here. Oh my God, I'm so happy. I'm such a fan. And then I say, you're going to get mic'd up. And then I say, okay, so we're going to film for 40 minutes, half an hour. We don't do any pickups. We just sit opposite each other and be yourself. Don't overthink things and just relax, and don't take it too seriously. This is meant to be fun. I'm going to give it to you so you can give it back. And we show you the edit before it goes out, so don't worry. It's going to be fun. And that's what I say. And then they sit down opposite me and we film for 40 minutes, and it's just question. There's no lulls. It's me just firing questions at them and being I don't know, I love it. I just love being in the moment, interviewing them and figuring out, listening to what they've said, and then figuring out how I can make this interaction funny by what I say.
That craft of being that present enough to make those moments happen, I think it's such an important point for young creators of you do have to play producer for the first probably few years, and I still play a lot of that role in what we do. We have gotten help, but my mind is still there. Even this morning, I'm here's what the building looks like, and we'll come get you. Yeah, I sent you that picture because in my head, I'm always thinking about what could go wrong, because it's based on talent too. And you don't want the talent to show up and be already kind of in strange mood because something went wrong.
For sure. And I'm very particular with like the guest and everyone and the crew having a great experience, like that everyone enjoys the time that they are having on set and that it's a slick operation. And I think we do have a very slick operation thanks to my production team, that the guest arrives, they get briefed, they sit down, they do the pictures, they do the TikTok, they leave. Like, I think, I hope it's an enjoyable experience. It's over very quickly. But saying that, like, yes, as every creator's journey, you start off as the producer, you're making your own content. And I think that's the beauty of it as well. Like, I wouldn't, even me saying, oh, I was super stressed handling all the production on my own and I was so relieved when it was taken off my hands, I wouldn't change anything because I think it's made me aware of all those roles. I was going to say, it's made me the person I am today.
Well, I stepped in with
it
aware.
literally has, like, wearing all the hats has made me someone that understands the process, and I think that I love that about it. Like I was saying earlier before we started, that whenever I would get a DVD like rental, I would immediately fast forward to the making of section, because I've always been so fascinated by how things are made and the behind the scenes. I used to love that growing up, like finding any moment I can to learn more about, behind the curtains at the industry. And so I wouldn't change that at all. It's really made me very aware of all of the steps it takes to make something. And when you're a creator, you have the best part of being a creator is you have creative control. And I think that that's something that is key to my story. I don't think that the success of the show would be I don't think that I would have a successful show, or it would be what it is today without the fact that I'm in creative control. I think that first of all, it would never have got made. I tried to get it. I was pitching it and no one wanted it.
Who were you pitching it to?
I pitched it to Channel 4, I pitched it to Vice. I ended up pitching it to the BBC. They actually did want it, but then they wanted to take the copyright. A few people wanted to take the copyright, and I am so happy that I never gave copyright away, so I own that myself. I pitched it to a big media company, and they wanted to buy the copyright for a crazy low amount of money. I can't even believe it. I still got the email. They wanted to buy the copyright for £500.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. But that's attractive. Like, it can be attractive to a young creator who's just starting out and no one's paying you.
Well, yeah,
right?
I got to a point where I was doing all these meetings with different people because I honestly couldn't make the show. Like, I didn't have any money to make the show. There was no way I couldn't. After you do 4 episodes or something, you can't ask people to work for free anymore. Like, you just can't. So it was just, I couldn't make the show. So I was then trying to figure out how I could, make money to make the episodes, and I was really keen on having it sponsored. I was like, I really want to get a sponsor to sponsor the show. This was when content was like 5 years into doing it, content was becoming more prevalent, and branded content in particular was something that was just started to happen. So I thought, okay, I've seen other people do it, I can get a sponsor. It was impossible. It was so hard to do that. And then so I was going to sell the copyright to people so that I could just get it made. And I'm so happy that I never did that. And luckily, one big part of the story is during that time, I also was signed to my management company, YMU, that are a huge company that look after loads of different talent, mainly at the time presenters, so traditional broadcasters. And I was their first online talent. And actually Jordan, who I think you guys know,
Manager of the Sidemen.
Manager of the Sidemen, he at the time was working at YMU, and he had come across my content, and he reached out to me and he said, I work for this management company, I'd never heard of it. Would you be interested in having coming in and having a chat with us? Jordan's younger than me. At the time, I think he was probably 20. He's just this sort of child genius, prodigal son thing. He's amazing. And I went in for a meeting. Jordan brought me in, and I had with the CEO, Mary, and they had this whole pitch, this whole deck put together of how they see my trajectory and what they can offer, being a huge management company that can basically get you a meeting with anyone. And I just was really scared to join with them at first, because I was like, this is a huge step, and I don't know if this is what I want to do. I met with a few other companies too, and then I went with them, and that was such a pivotal moment in my career, was being signed by a major management company, because they've opened so many doors for me. In particular, Jordan, and he brokered a deal for me and a phone company. Basically, I got paid enough money to then use that money to make episodes of Chicken Shop Date. So I didn't have to get a sponsor because I made enough money to then just fund it myself. And I've been funding it myself ever since.
What was the deal?
It was with Vodafone, and it was called the Hot Sauce Tour that his idea in a way. And it was this hugely ambitious project. Like at the time, it was kind of crazy that they agreed to doing this. It was the idea was me to do 3 episodes of Chicken Shop Date, and each episode would have a live show, free live show with that talent in 3 areas in the UK. So we did Manchester, Birmingham and London, which is such a cool idea and like such a cool concept. But at the time I really didn't have, I don't know how many followers I had. Maybe I had like less than 100,000 followers.
And how big was the show?
Not that big, like at all. So they just like took a punt on like, let's work with a smaller talent.
It's
really
good deal making from Jordan.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And the interesting thing about that deal is that we were in control of everything. So we were in control of literally the whole production, but it wasn't just the production of the videos, event production,
The live show,
the marketing rollout. We also had merch. We also had, we made our own hot sauce that I wanted to have 99% mayo hot sauce. Because that was the kind of tagline to it. And I had so many deliverables. I had like over 100 deliverables.
Oh my God. It's a classic first creator deal.
Yeah, I had so many deliverables, and it was the project spanned over 6 months.
Oh my God.
How much was the deal for?
It was, I don't remember, but it was like enough money.
It was enough.
It was a good amount of money.
Okay.
And that was split between that was split between like the whole project.
Did it change your perspective on how you want to make money with the show and with your channel? Because my assumption would be you take that job, it's really difficult, you're stretched thin, you learn a lot, but you go, I'm not doing anything like that again.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit like that, yeah. And I haven't done anything like that again since. But it was just a different environment of like, being at the mercy of clients, I think. And to be fair, they gave us so much creative license. Like it really, when I look back at what we achieved, it really was my vision executed exactly how I want it to be. But I think there was just so many elements at play that just made it quite challenging. But it's the first and only time I've ever done like a brand deal with, including Chicken Shop Date. I realized that I don't want anyone to have any ownership on the episodes apart from me. I'm not interested in sponsoring my episodes, and maybe some people will think that's foolish. I could be making way more money, but I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what I love about the show is that I can literally just shape it exactly how I want it to be. With my team are the only people that have eyes on it.
I think it's incredibly aspirational, like to look at it and say, totally, like the moment in time. I'm sure you've had offers to sponsor Chicken Shop Date. And if not, then I'm sure there's companies, like the amount of money that is there is definitely, in this current landscape of digital advertising, there's people who would want that.
Yeah.
But I think staying disciplined is what builds a brand and builds a brand at a premium. Like for me, watching that show, it feels more premium. If you turned to the camera and started delivering an ad read, it would break the whole show to me. It would change the dynamic of the entire show.
I also think that that's why people maybe like the show, is that they know that it's authentic, that it's not like got a lot of it doesn't have sponsorship. I mean, obviously you have the ads that YouTube include.
But that's like fully accepted at this point.
Yeah.
That's like there's no connection to it. That's based on me watching, not based on you presenting an ad to me.
I think the main reason I don't have sponsorship is because I just like enjoy making it my own.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it more challenging for myself.
How do you think about building a business? I'm sure a lot of creators would want to actually follow suit in a similar way and just keep what they're making their art, make it however they want to make it. So how did you think about navigating it? Like, did it ever provide issues for you that you couldn't?
I don't know. Like, I've always just been not interested in making loads of money. Like, as in, I just sort of thought, okay, well, I'm getting this next brand deal that's going to serve me for this X amount of time. I'm not thinking too much about it in the future. I just want to make enough money that I can pay my rent and can make my YouTube videos. Like all actually I really care about is making my YouTube videos. And I just was always just like, okay, well, how much money can this give me in terms of how many YouTube videos, more episodes of Chicken Shop Date can I make? I'm in a fortunate position as well in terms of I have a good amount of subscribers across lots of channels. So I have like millions of Instagram followers as well as YouTube subscribers as well as TikTok followers. So I think that's kind of maybe appealing to brands is that I'm across all those platforms.
And it gives you the flexibility of if you're going to have an advertising business, it doesn't have to be on YouTube, which is nice.
And also I think what we were saying before about crossing the traditional media with the digital media, I think that's also very appealing to brands because brands are trying to target both those audiences too. So I think that the strategy that me and my management team have like been implementing, which is to kind of be visible to both those markets, is also appealing to brands. So maybe I get more brand deals than other people. When I speak to my management company, they say that I get more, like I get a good amount of
brand offers.
Higher frequency than there maybe used to.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure though, I can imagine that.
Yeah.
I also think though, Chicken Shop Date without sponsors in it feels more like a Netflix show doesn't have, or like Succession on HBO. It's not like all of a sudden Kendall Roy turns to the camera and he's like, in this episode is brought to you. Like that would be ridiculous when you're watching traditional media. So Chicken Shop Date feels more like a traditional show because we're watching it and going, there's no ad break. There's nothing here that feels like a YouTube video.
Yeah, and that's definitely what I've always wanted. Like I'm so like creative first. Like I'm not, like as I said, I didn't even have the monetization tab open on my YouTube videos for a long time. Even for example, with the Barbie video I just did, it was 5 seconds under being 8 minutes. And I realized recently, apparently if you have 8-minute videos, you can like have another ad break and then you can earn more revenue. And I just literally was like, I don't really care. Like we'll just put it out.
It's just good. Yeah.
I don't mind. Like I don't want to I was really happy with the video. I didn't want to add in another section that I just taken out. Like I felt like it was a really tight edit. Like I don't mind like not getting another ad break in. Like people probably like that anyway. They don't have to skip any more ads. So
I think these are like small, they might feel like small decisions, but I think compounded over time, it's what's building the brand of Amelia Dimoldenberg. It's like that when I watch, it doesn't feel like other things.
Yeah.
And whereas maybe someone else running a YouTube business would make the decision, obviously, let's add 5 seconds, let's have 2 ad breaks. But I think these small decisions do compound over time to build a more premium brand.
Yeah.
Well, it's a brand that's also just 100% you at all times. The second you open up to a brand deal, you now have a minute 30 that is not fully you.
Yeah.
No matter if you love the brand and you have worn it or whatever, used it your whole life, it's now a minute 30 that like, oh, well, that's not 100% Amelia.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some specific Chicken Shop Date episodes. Jack Harlow is the most viewed, is that right?
I think it's the Chunks and Philly episode.
Oh, Chunks and Philly.
Maybe they're both on like 15 million. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's such an unbelievable amount of people to watch something.
I know,
it's like,
isn't it?
It's mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
But when I think about some of the big ones, I'm actually a big 1975 fan. So Matt Healy to me was I was very excited to see it, and then when I watched it, it was nothing like what I had anticipated it to be like.
Same.
And and Matt Healy is one of the few, if not the only, artists that kind of pushed back and pushed you into a different place. What was that experience like for you?
I loved it. I was so happy when that episode, I was honestly buzzing afterwards. I was like talking to all my team about it. I was like, oh my God, this episode, it's so, I love it. It's so great. It's so different. I was so happy that he kind of just played me at my own game really in a way, or that he wasn't afraid to kind of push the boundaries of what the show could be. And essentially the show is meant to be a date, and so I love it when the guest flirts back with me. Like that's really my favorite episodes, are when there's some kind of date aspect really going on.
No, I can't. I don't want to kiss you.
Why?
Because I just smoked a cigarette.
Come on.
I'm not. No. No.
Come on.
No.
You've got to commit to the bit. Let's do an earnest kiss.
So when he then tried to kiss me over the table, I was in my head, I was like, brilliant, this is great. It divides people because some people think that it was just way too intense that he was asking to do that, and then other people got that it was
get the comedy.
Get the
I
joke.
think I read some stuff about it that was kind of like this was inappropriate of him
no
to do.
means no.
Yeah, and it's like it's a comedic show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was completely fine with it. But yeah, I was really happy with that episode because I don't know, I not that I've been feeling complacent with the show, but as I said, it's a very simple format. I've been doing it for many years, and so I'm always looking for ways I can sort of bring some more life into it, or surprise people, or do something a bit unexpected. So with that episode, I was really glad that it was a bit of a different energy, and even something simple like I had a black and white moment in the middle of the episode, referencing like his new album and his like pretentiousness in that, and that was cool, and I was like a bit like, oh, I've never had a black and white frame before, but I just glad that paid off. And then I also always like bringing my props, and I had the fake cigarette.
That was so funny.
And I was super happy with that episode, and it really like spurred me. It gave me some great energy for the next few months.
Do you find that it gets harder to make these episodes the more popular the show becomes? The more people know that it's supposed to be funny? Like with Jennifer Lawrence, does that become a more difficult episode because she has so much context on what this show is supposed to be? I'm
not sure, because sometimes I've thought that in the past. I definitely think that when you're interviewing someone that's known for being funny, it's more of a challenge because there's so much content out there of them being hilarious. So you're not really showing them in a new light, which is again, why I started Chicken Shop Date, was because I wanted to show a different side to these guest personalities. When I'm talking to other people who interview, other interviewers, friends of mine, they often talk to me about, they're like, oh, it's so great with your show because someone can give you nothing and you can make it work in your favor. And I think that too. Like, I feel like I've shaped the show in a way so that someone can give me one word answers and I'll make that part of the bit. Like, I don't need to get something enlightening from them. And in that way, I feel like I'm always happy with the episodes. I think when I started, I was very much more set in my ways on my character having to be incredibly dry and deadpan and sarcastic. And I think as the years have gone on and I've grown up through the show, I've become warmer as a host. I don't know if you've noticed this. I feel it, and I've become more relaxed and more confident, and they're more friendly, the episodes. And I also think that's maybe broadened the audience too. In a way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like in Ed Sheeran, I think you tell him to keep his day job when he's singing.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very funny.
Yeah.
But the Jonas Brothers episode, I think I texted you about that one too, because I laughed. I could watch that many times, but the part that I laughed the most at is when you ask if Nick still gets jealous. It just killed me.
I know, I would. In the edit, I was watching and laughing.
It killed me every time I watched it. It was in the trailer for the episode, and then I watched the episode, and I laughed out loud both times. And I was like, it's so interesting now that I'm sure after 10 years, you are also... You are able to be the comedian in the seat as well, not just create the awkward moments, but like sometimes something you say is the thing that's the funniest moment in the episode, at least for me.
Well, thanks. I mean, most of the time it's the guest.
Sure.
But yeah, I definitely feel like I've become more confident as a host and as a comedian in a way, for sure, if I look back at my other episodes.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too is you have so much ability still in post-production, in the edit, to make it what it needs to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So even in those early times when you are not as confident, you still have an element of, okay, this might not go well, but at least I can mess some things around in the edit.
For sure.
So now I think you also have that experience in the edit of knowing you can do things like with the Jennifer Lawrence episode at the very end, put that soundbite about Emma Chamberlain that she says. I don't know if that happened at the very end.
No, didn't.
But you can leave it right there.
Yeah.
And that says so much.
I mean, I'm totally down to be friends. I really liked that clip that went viral with him and Emma Chamberlain.
Okay. My favorite thing to do in the edit is move all the bits around.
Yeah.
Like, I'll watch the whole of the rushes, so all of the footage, 40 minutes. I'll write all of my notes, and then I'll get sent back something that's like 10 minutes long, and then we'll edit all the sections down to where we're happy, and then I'll start moving everything around, and I'll move all of the sections around so that the flow is exactly right, and it feels like the conversation is really building, and it feels like we're both getting on really well, and the back and forth is right. And with Lewis Capaldi, I was like in the edit for ages, so longer than usual, because the flow was not working at all, and I couldn't get it right. It didn't feel like as fun as it was. And then finally I moved 2 sections around and it fit. Or sometimes you have to take out your
Favorite
part for it to work.
I also wanted to ask you about the KSI episode.
Yeah.
Just because going back to talking about being the producer and being everything, that to me, the way that show opens is like a black screen with text on it saying that you had already recorded it, but
Yeah.
the footage got corrupt.
Yeah.
That is like my worst nightmare as
my
a
worst nightmare.
creator. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare scenario for me. I dream about that stuff, actually. Like even coming into this, I was like, you know, okay, we're at a new studio. Is all this recording? Is it all working? Like that is something that
I had that
actually,
thought during this recording.
Yeah, I get stressed
like 20
about
minutes
that.
ago. I was like, I hope, okay, the lights are on.
Yeah.
Should be
The
good.
lights are on, yeah, they are. Hopefully it's recording.
Yeah.
Is this on? Hello?
Yeah, okay, we got a thumbs up.
It was a nightmare situation. And I found out actually later that the memory card wasn't actually corrupted. the camera operator didn't press play.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Which is even worse.
That's even worse.
It's even worse. But thank you to KSI for agreeing to reshoot the whole thing.
That's really kind.
How nice is that? But I guess maybe it's because he's a creator himself and he understands it, maybe, or he's just a very nice person, and so he said yes.
Were you able to like replicate it? Were there moments like
No, the first
doing it
episode was
twice?
definitely better.
Okay, got it.
The first
Yeah.
episode was definitely better, and no one will ever see it. Well, you could see my side. It was just his camera that didn't get anything, but I was still happy with the episode. But yeah, I wrote new questions and I redid it again. But that for me, that was also when I was still on the come up. Like every episode was like, is this like I really want people to see this one? Like I still had a lot to prove, and getting KSI was a big coup because he is a huge creator on YouTube, and it really brought me in a lot of subscribers. And as I was saying before, it's taken me years to get the subscribers. I think it took me like 7 years to get 500,000 subscribers, and then I got 1 million within a year, and then I'm nearly on 2 million now. So it's been a real journey to get those subscribers that I have now. And and he agreed to film, so thank you to him. But yeah, I was in a real bad way.
Sure.
I was spiraling. I remember going for lunch with my parents and being like, this is the end. I'm not coming back from this. I was crying on the phone, like to my producer. It was really bad because at that time, I really felt like I was only ever as good as my last episode, which I hear a lot of creators talk about. And I really just, at that time, just felt like, okay, if this one's not going to happen, then the show's over.
Then it's over.
Like I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And it's funny when I was thinking about this interview, because it spans the whole of my career and it's been over 10 years. And I've forgotten a lot of how it felt to be a creator starting out, because it's been so long. And it honestly is so tough and challenging, having to motivate yourself, having to build a brand, having to build a show, to build an audience. Building an audience is the hardest part, I think. And there's so many moments where I felt so like, why am I doing this? This is so hard. No one's even caring and it's too hard. And that's one of those moments. And I'm happy that I stuck with it. And now it feels like I've got into the swing of it. And I'm very grateful for the audience I have now, and that people have stuck with it. And it feels like I'm in my groove now.
What about Louis Theroux? I mean, it feels like that was another inflection point. Maybe not when it happened, but because of the incredible viral nature of that moment.
Yeah, the jiggle, jiggle.
Jiggle, jiggle.
My money don't jiggle, jiggle. It folds. I'd like to see you wiggle, wiggle. For sure. It makes me want to dribble, dribble. You know.
I know, that was wild. That's like, I'm so proud to be a part of that moment, because it really is something that I could never have expected in my wildest dreams. And because I knew, obviously, I'd watched all of his documentaries, I knew about the gangster rap episode of Weird Weekends. I asked him if he remembered any of the rap that he did, and he delivered it a cappella. And then Duke and Jones made the remix on TikTok, and then Brooke and Jess did the dance, and it just created this huge phenomenon.
My money don't jiggle, jiggle. It folds. I'd like to see you wiggle, wiggle. For sure. It makes me want to dribble, dribble. You know.
People were really ready for something joyful, just come out of lockdown, wanting a dance trend that just was very, just unlikely pairings, and just an awkward man rapping
Did that
to a
bring-
song that he'd created and had come from and you know, it's amazing for it to have come from an online show. I think it just shows like where we are right now in terms of the digital landscape.
Did that bring a lot of audience, or do you think it was decoupled? Oh, it did.
I think so. Yeah, I think I definitely did. And that episode is one of the highest viewed now.
Right.
It's on like 11 million views.
That's crazy.
And it was only last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last year. Yeah.
You cite him as inspiration, and I'm just curious, like, have there been markers in the career of, getting a message or a text from someone saying like, I love your show, from a sense of like validation? Like as creators, I think we always seek, like, I always say that for us, the thing that really hits me is whenever someone I respect says that they like our work.
Oh yeah.
That to me is like the highest currency we could get. What is that for you, or who are some of those moments, or maybe yet to happen? Like,
totally. I feel like there's nothing better than someone you respect, like loving your work. When Rosalia did the show, I was really surprised that she'd heard of it and that she had watched it. And so I was so happy that she agreed to do it. Again, I mentioned Daniel Kaluuya, like just basically all the guests, Ed Sheeran, even Jennifer Lawrence. Like, she didn't do any press in the UK apart from Chicken Shop Day, I don't think.
That's crazy.
And that's kind of amazing.
That's cool.
to have that. It shows you how times have changed, I guess. I mean, I talk to Sean Evans a lot about this on Hot Ones, and like we've become friends, which is really amazing because there's so many crossovers with our shows in terms of like the genesis of them and like how we view interviewing, and our styles are very different, but just our approach to what we do is kind of similar. And it was funny because someone tweeted recently about the Jennifer Lawrence press tour that like now the two key moments on any person's press tour are both involve eating fried chicken or nuggets. And we were laughing about that because it just shows how different things are now. But
what's so amazing about that is you have Sean Evans with Hot Ones, like the press junket stop, one of the biggest shows for a celebrity to go. And yet it's still within the confines of a media company. Like, it's Complex, which is owned by BuzzFeed. So it has that and a little bit of that ability to book guests. And of course, he built it over a long period of time and like similar to you, worked his way up in terms of like guests. But you are like entirely independent.
yeah.
Which for me is always the thing that stands out, is like, oh my gosh, this is essentially becoming Hot Ones, essentially like that level of cultural relevance. And yet I don't know what your infrastructure looks like, because I assume it's entirely still like independent. And YouTube, what does it look like to be able to build that, but independent?
Thanks for saying that, because that's something I do think about too when I'm like trying to sort of, I don't know, feel proud about what I've accomplished, because it's true, it's totally independent, totally started by myself. I'm in complete control of almost everything. And now I also run the production. So I started my production company, Dims Inc. And that's something that I'm really interested in the future, is like what Dims Inc. could be, because I feel like I can add value as an agency. So for example, like creative direction, coming up with a marketing plan for a brand, or a content series for a brand that maybe I'm not even in, thinking of those creative ways of problem solving, which is what agencies do. I feel like I could do that with my team, but then we also can provide production too. And then I'm also a publisher. So
Right,
I also
you're also a distributor.
So I also could provide, there's nothing to say that I could get another creator, build an idea with them, put it on my channel that I'm not even in. Like, there's so many possibilities of what it could do, and it all stems through this kind of like independence of having my own team and my own production. So, and it's interesting, the landscape now is changing in terms of creative agencies.
Yeah. I think it's such a unique model that is so cool because of everything you just said. It's like you can come up with the idea, you can make it, you can star in it, and then you can publish it.
Yeah.
That's like a fully vertically integrated media house.
Yes.
That's such a unique moment in time to be that person.
I know.
To be able to do that.
It's so cool, isn't it? In a way. And it also goes back to that thing of like, as a creator, you have to wear many different hats and you have to understand all of the processes of these things. And it's really changing, which is what you guys talk about a lot in your videos. It's changing the media landscape. It's moving it away from traditional broadcasters to this place where you're a one-stop shop. You can do everything and you're creating actually much more authentic content that people now are really buying into. I've been asked before, like, what do you think, like, what kind of content do Gen Z people like watching? What makes them different? What kind of consumers are they? And I think what makes them different is they're interested in watching things that are made by the person who's in it. Like it's
a good point.
Yeah, they're buying into I've DIY, I've done it myself. And I think that's what makes a younger audience different from an older one, because they can see that it's someone's vision and it's like no one's told them what to do. And that's kind of empowering. And I think that's what people see in me. I hope so anyway.
When I think about that like Gen Z is more open potentially to watching content from people who make it themselves.
Yeah.
I think about even just the term creator or the term YouTuber, and that to people in traditional or people who are perhaps older, the term YouTuber is perhaps something that is limiting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that way, that being labeled as a YouTuber is limiting to where you want to go and what you're doing?
I much prefer the title content creator than YouTuber, but I don't mind YouTuber. Like, I feel like sometimes I find it very hard to explain what I do. If someone says, what do you do? I'm always like, I don't know. I do so many different things, and maybe a lot of creators feel that way too. But YouTuber does the job, maybe. Like, if people can understand that, then that's fine. But YouTuber, in my mind, I'm thinking of a vlogger.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of even also maybe like Mr. Beast type challenge orientated content, and that's not what I do. I think that, as we've spoken about before, it's Chicken Shop Date and my other shows feel much more like traditional broadcast shows just on YouTube. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm a content creator, but I always just say I'm the creator of Chicken Shop Date.
What is your relationship with fame? Because you've gone from interviewing famous people and celebrities to becoming one yourself. What is that relationship? And also not only in the UK, but in the US too, like the US.
In terms of fame, I think it's like, it's always been an ambition of mine to kind of make myself a name separate to Chicken Shop Date, because I think that it adds to the success of Chicken Shop Date. Like, it's going to be more, if I'm more well known, it's going to be easier for me to get talent to come on the show because they'll know me and they'll want to do it in that way. But yeah, fame, I don't know, it just takes a bit of getting used to. You know what it feels like sometimes? It feels like you're like the town mayor and you're like walking down the street and everyone's just going, hey, and you just honestly have to pretend like you know them, and you're just like, hey, great to see you. Like, and that's what it feels like, because people come up to you like they are friends with you. And so the thing that was challenging was when I would pretend like, when I would act like I didn't know them. And it's actually much easier to like just
like,
go with it.
Yeah,
literally,
be warm. Yeah,
go with it, and just, even though it sounds weird, just to be like, yeah, this is normal. Like, everyone, like, you know me. I'll know you back. How's it going? I'll literally be like, how's it going? And they're like, yeah, good. Okay, we'll see you later. Literally, that's how I do, because it mimics the
parasocial or
and also it just makes me feel like it was a normal interaction, because it's not normal that someone you've never met comes up to you and asks you for a photo. Like, that is weird, and that's what makes you feel like an alien. So I'm doing this new thing where I pretend it's normal, and it's made me feel a lot better.
Have you ever had it where you pretend it's normal, but you actually do know the person? Because I'm speaking from experience. Sometimes I'll like
you don't know you know the person?
Yeah, I'll be like, oh, hey, great to meet you. You know, and then sometimes it'll linger. There was one specific time it lingered, and I was like, do you want a photo? And they were like, what? I know you.
Yeah,
like,
I went to school with you.
Yeah, and I was like, oh.
I'm your best friend.
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry.
It's Colin every time he comes up to you.
I'm on the show with you.
Hey.
Yeah, obviously sometimes it happens. Like, sometimes I'll meet, because I meet lots of different people on set. Sometimes people will come up to me and then I'll think that they're a fan, and actually they're like, oh no, I was like the sound op on like a show, like
it's
a thing you did like
thing
a
to get
few
used
years
to.
ago. What happened the other day? I was at Lana Del Rey concert, and people coming up to me saying the most thoughtful things. One girl, well, to me it was thoughtful. She said, I love watching your videos. They really cure all my hangovers. And I was like, yes, I like that. That is great. Like when
That's
people
really
say
sweet.
stuff like that, I don't know, I'm just like, yeah, that's why I'm just so happy that happens.
Yeah.
That they feel like that.
So when you're on the
Hangovers are so bad.
So when you're on the red carpet and it's somewhat the inverse, that you are potentially talking to people who are even that next level of fame, and you're doing a red carpet interview, how do you perceive those interactions? Are you nervous on the red carpet?
Yes, the nerves have gotten less as time has gone on, but Golden Globes in particular, I was so nervous. I actually have videos that I filmed of myself where I'm like freaking out, that I was like, maybe I'll make a vlog of this experience, and I just didn't at all because I just was too in my own head with it. But I couldn't sleep for like days before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
In that like red carpet, like I feel like that has been such a cool evolution to watch you go onto the red carpet. Like that to me, I feel like the first time I saw you on the red carpet, I was like, wow, I'm witnessing something that is going to continue to grow.
We're witnessing history.
History, yes. That's how I felt. I was like, oh, the way that, I don't know, we're like seeing something that's going to become such a big part of the norm of like Hollywood premieres or award shows, specifically you being there. And I think that creators being on the red carpet has also become more prevalent, specifically Emma Chamberlain.
Yeah.
And I was curious because like at the end of the Jennifer Lawrence bit, like that was very funny that you included that Jennifer Lawrence talked about Emma on the red carpet. Do you feel any sense of competition?
With Emma?
Yeah.
Not really, because I feel like by the way, I love her videos, but yeah, for sure, I'm not gonna like, if I'm being honest, when the Met Gala came this year, I was like, couldn't really sleep because I was like, I wanted to see what kind of questions she was asking, how it went. And yeah, that's a dream job of mine to do the Met Gala. Like that's what I'm trying to working towards, to do those interviews. And I don't know, I don't know if I'll get booked until maybe Emma decides she doesn't want to do them anymore, because maybe our styles are too similar. But that's fine because I've got something to work towards. And that's how I always think, you got to build and build. And if I was doing the Met Gala this year, what would I do next? It's more something that I like, that I've got something to build towards.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like I'm building I'm an interviewer. That's what I do. Like that's my, I'm not a vlogger. I'm not a podcaster. Like I interview people, and I interview celebrities, and that's what I feel like I've honed my craft doing. I'm really good at it, and I want to continue doing that. Yeah. So yeah.
You've brought up before that if Drake were to come on the show, that would be the end.
Yeah.
If he were to come on in the next 6 months, is that too soon?
That's why I'm not that bothered, that keen about him coming on the show anytime soon. People, that's my number one thing that people ask me. They're like, when's Drake coming on the show? When's Drake coming on the show? When they see me in the street. And I'm like, it will happen. Like it will happen. Like it's been organized and fallen through like too many times for it to not happen. And he's given me his word that it will. So, I mean, it will happen. But yeah, I'm going to end the series with his episode. So
wow.
We'll see.
I love sticking to your word on that.
Do you have any thought of what goes on the channel after that?
No, I haven't thought that far ahead. I have other ambitions in terms of what I want to do, like do directing and scripture projects. And I really feel like I want to go into like narrative video more. Yeah.
One quick note on talent for Chicken Shop Date. In terms of like booking talent for Chicken Shop Date, I've heard you talk about that President Biden's team reached out to inquire about coming on Chicken Shop Day.
Yeah, that was like an early email, just like, can we sense check that you could maybe like do a call? But how funny is that? Like
that's wild.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the inbound you get of now people wanting to come on the show.
Yeah.
How do you decipher between yes and no? Like holding on to the brand of what you've built when there's, massive talent asking to come on?
I think it's just every time a talent request comes in, it's just like thinking about, is this someone my audience would want to see? Does this make sense for the show? Is this going to move us in the right direction? Is this a talent that I actually like and that I'm a fan of? Do I think that there's so many things that come into play. What's their, like, who are their audience? Like, are people excited by them at the moment? Have we got them at the wrong time? Have we got them at the right time? Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different questions we ask. But the best ones is when a request comes in, you're like, yes, straight away.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So are we going to see President Biden on Chicken Shop Day?
I think he's been and gone now.
Okay.
His trip was very short, and I wasn't included on the press run.
As you look at making scripted television series, things like that, do you feel like what you're doing right now is building the muscles you need? Do you have the people that you need for that?
I don't think so. I think it's a long journey into the scripted world. Like, I think I like that I've got a long game plan too, as well as the like entertainment formats that are kind of happening at the moment, and the red carpet interviews, and other maybe entertainment formats that I put out or I'm connected to. And then it's more of a long-term plan to work towards doing some more scripture projects. But I find it very challenging to find the time, because it's a very different part of my brain.
Your sister was quoted in the New York Times by looking back and saying you've always had a high level of ambition.
Yeah.
And I think, now having spoken to you at length in this conversation, it feels like that is a word that I would ambitious is an absolute word that I would use to describe you. And I'm just curious where that comes from. Like, is that from, have you felt like you're trying to, I guess, prove something to yourself, or is there something from a young age that you were trying to reach this level of success?
Yeah, I think that I don't know, I cannot remember a time when I wasn't really ambitious. Like, honestly, even like in primary school, like I've always just wanted to impress people. And maybe that's a blessing and a curse. Yeah. I think I actually talking to my therapist about this like recently, about why do I feel the need to impress people that don't know me? And I think that often that's what we're doing as in this industry. That's how everything everything works. It's a huge driver and motivator for us as creators, right? Like, we are looking at these numbers on the screen and looking at this performance of our craft, or the validation when you're walking on the street and someone said that was really great or very funny. It's like, those are moments that fill you up as a creator. Yeah. As time's gone on and I feel more confident in my place in the industry, and just I'm growing up, I'm more interested in pleasing people that do know me. And I think that's much more manageable. Yeah. It's impossible to get everyone to like you and to impress everyone. It's much more feasible to just get the people that you know to like you and to want to be around you. A great step for that, which I'm so impressed, is that you had no idea what the YouTube Studio app is, which was amazing when we first sat down, which is what most creators are hooked to, is their analytics and how things are performing and what people are saying. That's pretty amazing. No, I don't have I didn't know about this YouTube Studio app, but I do look at it on my laptop. But if I'm honest, I will look at it maybe like once a month. Wow, that's amazing. But I look at views. So I look at the views, and that's how I sort of see if something's going well or not. And then I love reading comments on YouTube. Yeah. And the positive sentiment on YouTube is so great. And also on TikTok, and that's not to say that I don't care about analytics, because I'm very much looking at the views on my TikTok as well. Like, I've been known to archive a video if it doesn't have over 1 million views, because I'm insecure about that or whatever. But it's a work in progress always of trying to let go in terms of the numbers. And I do think I'm pretty good at that now. And I've just always been just obsessed with the creative. Like, I want it to be the funniest video it can. I want it to be entertaining. I'm very much just want it to be the best piece of content it can. And that's what I think I've always tried to do, rather than if it's going to make X amount of views, make X amount of money. That's what I just want it to be good. Yeah. I think that's what's so inspiring to us and to a lot of other creators looking in, is that you don't get to feel that you are compromising. Yeah, no. On the work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I rarely will I compromise. I've been sometimes when I've been made to, or I've had to, and I've been very annoyed about it. And that's also something that's an interesting thing from coming from as a creator. I think that you're in a really privileged position where you don't have to compromise. And it's interesting when you then start working with other people, traditional media and all these places, like it kind of can take it an adjustment to being like, wait, so you're going to have a say in my video. I'm not going to have the complete control. And that's also what I again love about the other work that I do, because I love collaborating with other people that do have, insight, that are bringing their own expertise. A creator journey is often a very isolating one, a very not lonely, but like
it is.
You're going out on a whim, on your own. You're doing it all on your own terms. That's incredible, and that's why everyone has got to where they are today because of that. But it also, you're like constantly being like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Is this going to go well? And when you're part of a smaller part of a bigger team, I don't think you have that as much, but then you don't have the control and you probably are yearning for some kind of creative control. So it's like sometimes I do wish that I was part of a gang, part of a smaller part in a bigger company. Wouldn't it be cool to like not have to be the one leading everything all the time? Right. But then I know that as soon as I'd get there, I'd be like, I want it my way, and I want to do it. But it's been another process has been learning to delegate. And that's a big part of what I try and do with my team, is trusting in the people I've hired and the people that are around me, that they can do a brilliant job, and that they do, and that I can let go. Yeah. And I found over the last year, I've been doing that better than I have before. And I feel like that's also why my career is going up in an upward trajectory, because I've built a really great team around me. And I trust them to go about tasks and deliver things separate to me, that I don't have to be in control of everything. I'm overseeing stuff, but things are going on without me. And that's, I guess, how you build a business, but I still don't even know. But I'm assuming that that's what you have to do. You have to let go to build. And I'm really grateful for everyone that I work with, and all the different ways that they've come into my life, whether it's through putting out an advert on LinkedIn, or meeting someone at an exhibition and them giving me their portfolio and me working with them, through work experience, through my management company, all these different ways, these avenues. It's really important to me that the people that I work with are from all different walks of life, and and their access has been in different ways.
I wanted to ask about, like, you know, Amelia, the person, versus what we see on camera, and if you've ever been at odds with the character that you've created, like in your personal life, whether that's in actual dating or in friendships or anything like that, where playing the character on camera, like almost a hyperbolic version, versus, you know, in real life. Has there ever been any tension between those two?
I think not really too much tension. I think because all my friends and everyone who knows me, they've known me forever. So I don't really feel like anyone's ever not knowing the like real me. And I'm also very confident of like switching in between the two people. Like whenever I meet someone, I'm always just going to be like this, like myself. Like I'm never going to be like in character. Like the only time I'm in character is like when I'm doing a chicken shop date interview, or when I'm on the red carpet or something. But the red carpet interviews are very much more like my actual vibe in real life. So yeah, I've never really been at odds with the character. And then obviously I'll always have like some comments from people that I'm just becoming friends with or don't know, and they'll say, oh, you're not as awkward in real life. And then that's literally it. And then we just start chatting about, then we just move on. So I've never really had that, but maybe it's just my own confidence, and even in knowing that even if I did have comments, that I wouldn't let it faze me. And I think also I'm very quick to just be myself in situations, so I think that people just get the picture very quickly.
For all the people who think maybe you have just arrived in the last year or two, what I love about this conversation is that it really does show that you have been doing this for so long, over 10 years. Mm-hmm. And for all the reasons that you are where you are today, I feel like one of the biggest ones is just that you didn't quit.
Exactly. Didn't quit, and also had some amazing people around me that have helped me shape the show and have steered me in the right direction. And yeah, it's my show, but there's so many people that have made that reality. So I'm really grateful that I got the opportunity to talk a bit more about the teamwork and the people that have been in and out of my life. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sitting down.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see what happens over the next year. I feel like the last year has been so crazy.
I know. I had one more piece of thing I wanted to say before I go, because I do actually have to go, is when I was thinking about like, advice or things, moments that have really stuck out to me in my journey. one moment that really stuck out to me is actually when one of my producers handed in their notice, and it was the first time that someone had left me, that I'd felt like people can.
Wow, the first time.
Yeah, in business. Well, actually, no, I actually feel like I've not been left that much.
Wow.
I know.
Impressive.
And it was very eye-opening experience. And to me, she was incredible. She was such a brilliant producer. She taught me so much, from really particular things to big things. Like, you don't have a Dropbox. You should have a Dropbox and have all your stuff shared on this. Like, she really built a lot of the infrastructure for Dims Inc. And honestly, 4 months into working with her, she handed in her notice, and to go and start her own agency. Fair play. I was like, great. And I was floored. I couldn't believe that someone this good would leave me. And that's when I actually spoke to my dad about it. And I never talked to my dad really about anything to do with my work and stuff. I mean, he's interested, but he doesn't give me advice. And I called him and I told him about what happened. And he said something actually kind of good. He said, the best people will always leave. And I was like, because they are ambitious. Because
they're the best people,
and they're the best people, and they're going to leave because they want to do other things. And that was really good for me to know, because it has now prepared me that, I might be working with these amazing people now and they might leave me, and that's okay, because I'll be able to find someone else. And I think that's been really useful for me, and it's made me more confident in like things changing.
Yeah, I think that's a good lesson, just in being a creative, hiring creative people, that you have the empathy that they will want to do something similar to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Even if they stay at your company. I hope a lot of the people that work with us stay with us for a long time.
Yeah.
And if they do, I hope they are able to carve out time and ways for them to do something creative and ambitious in their own right, in a different type of way.
Yeah. Especially when you're around, someone, a creator or the CEO of the company who you've seen them do it on their own. It's inspiring as well. So maybe it's kind of makes people want to do it too. But yeah, so that was just my other thing that I've been thinking about in terms of things.
Do you have parting words of wisdom for people who want to do what you've done?
Parting words of wisdom. I'm so bad at mottos. But I have one, which I need to just remember. What was it? Wait 1 second, I'm gonna remember it. It's like, if you
Louis gave you one on the pod.
Something, if you want something, it's like, if you want something to. Okay, I've got it. Okay, so there's an amazing charity called Arts Emergency, and they're all about getting people from disadvantaged backgrounds into work in the creative arts. And they have merch, and one of their badges, they've made a badge with a comedian called Joe Lycett, and it says this motto, which I love, and I wish I thought of it myself. If you want something to exist, sometimes you have to create it yourself.
That's perfect.
And it's not my motto, but it's
good.
I love that.
I love that one.
That's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like that really wraps up the conversation too.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Well, thank you, Amelia.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Such a pleasure. I'm such big fans of your content. And so it was great to have a conversation with people who really understand where I'm coming from. So I hope this has been helpful for other people as well, and interesting.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Bye.